I used to make $200,000 a year until I quit my job in 2018. If you make $200,000 a year or more, this video is for you. As a former enrolled agent, I want to show you the tax optimized way to invest your money so you can save a ton of money on taxes while retiring decades earlier than your peers. So let's go through the optimized order of investing for high income earners. Step one is to put money away in an emergency fund in cash that you can access. Typically, I recommend just putting money into a high yield savings account. And in fact, I have a whole list right here, and I'll put a link below of the top ones that pay 4% or more right now. But this cash is for emergencies only. I typically recommend at least 1 month of expenses set aside. So if you spend 15 grand a month, you need at least $15,000 in this savings account before you do anything else, before you're investing, paying off debt, anything. The reason you put this in place is because life will happen, and you're either going to swipe the credit card, grab some home equity, or cash out some of your retirement to take care of that, or you just use the cash that you have set aside, earning a little interest to take care of life's emergencies. As a high income earner, I typically recommend at least 1 month, but typically 3 months is probably a little bit better thing to shoot for, because if your expenses are high, your obligations are high, you don't want to be freaking out that you only have 1 month parked in the bank. So first, get 1 to 3 months of expenses in the bank, and then you can move on to step two. Our step two is to get your 401k match. Now, if you are in a job that offers a 401k, a lot of higher paying jobs will offer matching funds. These funds are kicked in by your company, and they will match what you contribute up to a certain percentage of your salary. So for example, a company I used to work for would match 50% of what I put into my 401k up to 6% of my salary. At $200,000 a year, that meant I was putting in $12,000, and they would put in additional $6,000. That is a guaranteed 50% return on investment. I have some coaching clients that work in tech, and they have 100% matching funds all the way up to the maximum. So they could get up to $23,500 in matching funds from their company, and that's a 100% return on investment. You will not find a better guaranteed return on investment anywhere, period. Point blank, the 401k match is the first thing you should be doing with your money. Once you have that match, make sure you understand the vesting schedule though. The vesting schedule means those matching funds go in, but they're not yours until you've worked at the company for a certain length of time. So for example, I had one where every year a quarter of those funds would unlock. So after 4 years, I was fully vested, which means I could walk from that company and get all of those matching funds and the growth that goes with it. So make sure you understand the vesting schedule so you know when you own that money. But the 401k match is a no-brainer. In fact, just those matching funds alone, the $6,000 a year, if I worked for 25 years, putting the extra 6 grand away would net me over $430,000 in additional gains just from my company. So massive, massive, massive investment opportunity. All right, step three for high income earners is to max out your employee stock purchase plan, your ESPP. Now, not every job offers this, but if your job does offer stock purchase plan, they usually allow you to defer compensation from your paycheck and then purchase company stock at a discount, usually around 15%. Again, this is a guaranteed rate of return. You get that guaranteed 15% discount and you own that stock. So there are 2 steps to this. The first is the offering period. So you sign up and your paycheck will start to put money away deferred for, let's say, 6 months. That's the offering period. Then there's the purchase date. After, let's say, that 6 months, you have a purchase date and you purchase the stock at a 15% discount. Now you own that stock. Once you own that stock, though, you are now invested in the company you work for. What I typically recommend people do is to sell that stock right away. You lock in that immediate 15% return and then invest in something like a broad-based index fund, which gives you more diversity and lower risk investing, and you're not concentrated only in your company stock. Now, it's important to ask if your company has a lockup period. Sometimes after that purchase date, you still can't sell those shares. So the funds are locked up in that company stock for a period of time, and then you can sell it. And so there are some tax implications to that as well. Just make sure you ask your company, do we have a lockup period on this employee stock purchase plan? So for example, if you put 20K into this ESPP and you get that 15% immediate return, that's an extra $3,000 a year. Invested for 25 years at 8%, that's an extra $200,000 on top of your retirement account, just in that 15% discount account alone, not to mention all the stock you just purchased as well. So this could be a massive opportunity for you. All right, step 4 is to pay off high interest debt. Now, I define high interest debt as anything with 10% interest rate or higher. Because you can typically make about 8 to 10% in the stock market and there's some tax advantages to investing, I usually say don't worry about lower interest debt. Credit cards, high interest personal loans or auto loans, things like that, you need to just get those out of your life as fast as possible. If you have multiple debts, you can pay them down. I typically recommend what's called the debt snowball, where you take the one with the smallest balance and you knock that out first while only paying the minimums on the others. And as soon as that first one is gone, you pay off the next one and the next one. You could also choose to pay off the one with the highest interest rate and then go to the next one with the next highest interest rate down the line. The key is just paying off one debt at a time. It doesn't make a huge difference which method you choose. Just knock those things out as fast as possible. Again, if you have a 20% interest rate on a credit card, paying it off is kind of like earning 20% on your money. That's way better than you're going to get in the market. So knock out that high interest debt so then you can start maxing out all of your tax advantaged retirement accounts. All right, step 5 is to boost your emergency fund up to 12 months. Now, a 1 to 3 month emergency fund might help you feel good, but for bigger emergencies like losing your $250,000 plus a year job, you're going to want to make sure you have multiple months set aside. I typically recommend 6 to 12 months for high earners. The reason is typically in a high earning position, there could be a longer job gap. You might just be in the job market for a bit longer to make sure you land that next high income job. And so you don't have to settle. Make sure you set aside a huge chunk of cash. Again, put this into a high yield savings account, earn 4% interest on it and still be making some money, but make sure you have that buffer between you and potential job loss or something very, very expensive. Again, if you have to raid your retirement account, for example, you not only have to pay current tax rates, you also have to pay a 10% penalty before withdrawing it early. So you absolutely want to have a bigger buffer set aside. So set aside, again, 6 to 12 months of emergency fund expenses into a high yield savings account that's easily accessible. All right, step 6 is to max out your health savings account. Now, again, not everyone has access to this, but if you have access to what's called a high deductible health plan at your workplace or an HDHP, that health plan, if it's HSA eligible or if there's an HSA attached to it, you could start investing into this health savings account. The cool thing about the HSA is it's sort of like a sneaky Roth IRA and a regular IRA combined because there's triple tax advantages. One, you can deduct money by putting money into it. So it lowers your taxable income, right? Which could be up to a 32% savings or more, depending on how much money you make. Then the money can be invested into even index funds, broad-based index funds, and you can grow with the markets. And that's tax-free, just like your IRA account. But the cool thing is you can pull it out from medical expenses, also tax-free. So all that growth and everything else, it's almost like a Roth IRA on the back end where you can pull that out and start putting it toward your medical expenses. But here's the real hack. This is the genius of the HSA. If you hold on to funds in your HSA, you don't have to pay for medical bills in the year they occur, which means you could save up receipts for your medical bills for 30 years. And as soon as you decide to start withdrawing from them, you just submit those medical receipts and boom, all those funds are tax-free. So over your working career, if you have $100K out of pocket for medical expenses, you can have $100K of tax-free income when you decide to retire. And if you wait till age 65, you can pull your HSA funds out for anything. You don't have to have medical receipts for it. So it just turns into an IRA. It is truly a magical account if you have access to it. You can put about $85-50 a year away into it if you have a family, or about $4,300 a year if you're single. So highly recommend maxing out that HSA next. And again, just that tax deduction on, say, an $85-50 contribution could be $2,700 in taxes. And the growth of that $85-50 over 25 years at 8% is $624,000, which is just on top of all the other savings and investing opportunities you have. So huge fan of the HSA. All right, step 7 is you're going to want to go back and max out your traditional IRA. And the reason I say traditional IRA is because typically as a high earner, you're in a very high income tax bracket and you want to lower your taxes any way possible. So in a traditional IRA as of 2025, you can contribute $23,500 into it, and you can do $31,000 if you're age 50 or older, so you can supercharge it and get all that tax savings. And again, that $23,500 into your 401k, not even counting the company match, you're going to get about $7,500 a year in tax savings depending on your bracket. So that is massive. And that $23,500 invested for the next 25 years at 8% could turn into $1.7 million. So you could be a 401k millionaire on top of all your other accounts while saving on taxes at the same time. All right, step 8 is the backdoor Roth IRA. Now, if you make over $200,000 a year, or if you're married filing jointly making over about $250,000 or so, you can't contribute to a Roth IRA directly. But there is a magical backdoor that's super easy to use, and you can still max out your Roth IRA for you and your spouse. So the way that it works is you would open a regular IRA, and then you would open a Roth IRA. You would contribute all your money, so you can do up to $7,000 per year, or if you're age 50 or older, you can do up to $8,000 per year. You put it all in the traditional IRA, but you're not going to deduct it because it's, you make too much money. As soon as you put it in that traditional IRA, you are going to roll the funds over into the Roth IRA. Now, how is that legal? All you have to do is file IRS Form 8606 or have your CPA take care of it. And now you have legally put money into a non-deductible IRA and then rolled it into a Roth. That's the back door. And that allows you to contribute, again, $7,000 each, so about $14,000 a year if you're married, into a Roth IRA. So the Roth IRA is magical for a couple of reasons. Number one, your investments grow tax-free, and then you could pull them out tax-free at retirement. So you have tax-free income in retirement, which could be huge. But number two is the money that you put into there, that $7,000 each year, that's counted as your principal contribution. You could pull that money out at any time. So it's kind of like a backup emergency fund. There's no tax implications if you just pull that money out. Now, not the earnings and growth or anything like that. You gotta stick to the IRS regulations on that. But the principal money that you put in there is accessible. So Roth IRAs are flexible and powerful. And after 25 years of investing, that $7,000 a year could turn into over $500,000 tax-free each in retirement. And if you had put that just like in a regular brokerage account, you would probably be spending over $60,000 in capital gains over that time. So huge win to invest in a Roth IRA using that backdoor method. All right, step 9 is the mega backdoor method. Now, some people call it the mega backdoor Roth IRA or just the mega backdoor Roth. Now, if you work at a place like Google or Meta or Microsoft, they actually have this built right into your 401k account. So here's how it works. You can contribute up to $23,500 into a 401k. Your company might match some of those funds. But did you know you might be able to make additional what are called non-deductible contributions to your 401k plan? Then you can roll those funds, just like the backdoor IRA, into a Roth account, sometimes right into a Roth IRA. So the way this works is that you would have to go to HR and figure out, hey, our 401k plan, do we have access to being able to contribute in excess of the employee contribution? Can I make a non-deductible contribution to this? And then do we have a tool that allows us to roll that into? So I have coaching clients that work in tech companies that are allowed to do this right in their dashboard. They could just log in and they can just up their contributions. Here's what's really cool. You can do a total between the 23 and these other contributions up to $70,000 into a mega backdoor Roth account, and all that non-deductible stuff you can roll into a Roth. So it's really, really cool. Again, there are some implications on how much you're allowed to invest and based on your salary and everything else. I would reach out to your company HR and say, can we do non-deductible 401k contributions, and can we roll those over into a Roth account? And again, that could be a Roth 401k, so you could just do it to the Roth side of your 401k there, or it could be over into a Roth IRA if they allow you to pull it out into another account. But this can be a way to tax shelter 40 plus extra $1,000 and massively turbocharge your retirement savings to give you a whole lot of tax-free money when you retire. And even just putting an extra $20K away into that mega backdoor Roth IRA gives you $1.4 million extra dollars in a tax-free Roth account by the time you want to retire. All right, step 10 is to put money into a taxable brokerage account. Because you've already maxed out all your tax advantaged options and you're potentially saving tens of thousands of dollars a year on taxes already, and you're going to have millions and millions in your retirement accounts, it's nice to have the flexibility of a taxable brokerage account. This is just extra maxing out your investments on top. But what's cool about taxable brokerage accounts is there's no limitations. You don't have to wait till age 59 and a half or jump through to withdraw your money. You can access those funds at any time. And really, this is the key. For people that want to retire early, I highly recommend putting a good chunk of money into a taxable brokerage account, because you can think of it as a bridge account. If you don't want to jump through a bunch of hoops, but you just want to withdraw from your retirement accounts at age 59 and a half or older, but you want to retire at, let's say, 48 or 50, you're going to need money to bridge that gap. The taxable brokerage account can be that money plus some cash and give you the living funds that you need, to pay for 8-10 years of regular expenses until you decide to start withdrawing from your retirement accounts. So a taxable brokerage, even though you do pay capital gains taxes on it, you're not paying like ordinary income taxes. So it's not going to be your 32% rate. It's usually somewhere between 15 to 20%, or as a high income earner, you might pay that extra net investment income tax of 3.8. So it'd be around 23.8%. So even if you just put away $50K a year into this taxable brokerage, gives you a ton of flexibility. In 25 years from now at 8%, that's still an extra $3.5 million. And after taxes, you still got $3 million of flexible money to access. All right, step 11 is to invest in a 529 plan or like a custodial account for your child. Now, why is this way at the bottom? Here's the deal. Your kids being debt free is not going to put food on your table, but your retirement accounts will. You need to secure your retirement. You need to secure your financial future first, then you can take care of them. It's like the oxygen mask in the airplanes. Secure your mask and then help the person next to you. So if you want to invest for your kids, there's a couple of ways to do it. And I actually have a video on how to do this without tying it up into a 529 educational account. And I'll link that video here. It's called a custodial account. And that is basically kind of a brokerage account for your kids. And then you could put money into that. And then it's just theirs at whatever the age of majority is in your state, from 18 to 23, 25, somewhere in there. But then that money's flexible. It's not tied to anything. They can use it for whatever they want. So they could use it for student loans or for education or for buying a rental property or starting a business or buying a house. There's so many opportunities. I like the flexibility of that. But if you're in a state that allows you state tax deductions for investing in a 529, which is sort of an educational savings account that can be used for college. It can actually be used for private school and in trade schools and a few other things. It's very flexible. But you can get a state tax deduction, and the money you put in there, even if you're not in a state with a state tax deduction, usually can grow tax-free on the federal level as well. So if you want to invest for your kids, if you know they're going to college and you want to make sure you set aside money in a tax-advantaged way, you can max out a 529 account. Now, there's lots of details on how these things work, and a lot of different 529 accounts have different types of investments. Each state has their own version of a 529 account, but you don't have to use your state's 529 account. I'll link some resources below on 529 accounts and where to look to find the best one for you. But if you want to invest for your kids, you can invest the money in a 529, put it away just like an IRA or something. You can choose index funds, let it grow, and then they can use those funds for education. Our step 12 is rental real estate. Now, notice I'm not saying real estate. I'm saying rental real estate specifically. That's because there's a lot of ways to invest in real estate. And you could do real estate syndications. Not a fan of those because of the fees and the middlemen. You can even do real estate investment trusts, REITs. These are just like stocks. You can buy ETFs that own a bunch of rental real estate and you can earn money from that. But you usually don't win out and you lose a lot of the advantages of real estate by just doing the easy button investment. Actually own a rental real estate property is where you can have massive tax advantages. Again, shelter a bunch more of your money, buy an appreciating asset, and then have your tenants pay off your mortgage. So I highly recommend, if you want to get into rental real estate, just do single family rentals and to go down that path. I will say, this is coming from a guy that's done taxes for people that had rental properties and saw the massive advantages and the tens of thousands they saved every year in depreciation and other expenses owning these while the properties went up in value, while their tenants paid off the mortgage. But I haven't personally owned one. But from a tax standpoint, it is the best way to grow your wealth outside of the stock market and retirement accounts. So if you are down for it, you could own some rental real estate. I highly recommend, especially if you're a high earner, focus on your day job. And this isn't passive income. You're going to need to manage it a little bit, but you can focus on outsourcing as much as you can without hurting your profit. So getting property management, people that can handle maintenance and everything else. If you have that structure in place, it can be somewhat passive, but have huge, massive tax advantages to it. All right, and step 13 is finally paying off your low interest debt, becoming completely debt free, including the mortgage and car loans, student loans, everything. Now, You might be saying, okay, well, I hate debt and I don't want this. Like, why are you putting this as the very last step? Why would I want to live with it for so long? Mathematically, it just makes more sense to max out your tax advantaged accounts because you're saving on taxes and growing your wealth at the same time. It makes more sense to invest even in a taxable brokerage account because typically you can earn 8 to 10% in the market. But if your interest rate in your home is 5, 6% or less, or if you have a car loan with a very low interest rate, paying those off later mathematically makes the most sense. Now, I get it. Peace of mind is a big deal, and you might ratchet this up, into the middle steps here before you start maxing out these other accounts. But you can mentally separate yourself from the debt and realize, nope, that's just a tool that happens to have a low interest rate and it will get paid off eventually. Then paying off your low interest debt should be the last step. Now, I highly recommend paying all of your debt off before you retire, have the mortgage gone, have those big expenses out of the way so that you need less in retirement for your monthly cash flow. And in fact, you would need to save a whole lot less to retire if you become mortgage free. So I highly recommend lining up your mortgage free date and your high debt, balance date to be completely debt free by the time you choose to retire, whether it's early or on a regular schedule. But I wouldn't rush to pay it off because that low interest rate, even though it can feel weird, is actually a bit of a blessing because you can leverage that to invest more. So that's the ultimate order for investing when you make $200,000 a year or more. If you're a high income earner, you're leaving money on the table, to be honest, if you're not following this order of operations. And if you didn't memorize all 13 steps, I got you. You can actually click the link below and grab a copy of a PDF I put together to just give you a reminder of what the steps are and in what order they need to go in. So you can grab this investing order for high earners and you can make sure that you're following the steps in order. As always, I appreciate you being here. And if you want more content like this, you can subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions or maybe you don't agree with this order, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about investing and what is the best way to invest to grow your wealth, minimize your taxes, and retire early. All right, I'll see you in the next one.